He called out Rampage. I get where that's fun and funny and spoof and newsworthy, and I totally jumping the shark, but I get it. No committee. I mean, I could go into it. All the reasons that will not happen. He signed with Bellator. That part is true. What did he sign to do? Right? If anybody signs with Bellator, go, oh, he's going to fight for Bellator. Well, they have all sorts of contracts out there. Right? Trace Atkins was signed with Bellator, just to offer you an example. And then he sang the national anthem just recently. You're in a real catch-22 if you're Rampage there, right? 50 Cent is going to attach his name and whatever attention he can get to somebody. It would be foolish for that somebody to dismiss it instead of ride the wave, even though you're going to make yourself look a little bit foolish because the level of ridiculousness and absurdity is just glaring you in the face. And if you pull any kind of a stunt and it turns out to be just that, which this obviously would be, it makes it a little harder for you to pull a stunt in the future. So what do you do if you're Rampage? Do you take the guy with 8 million social media followers that's brought you into a social media scam? Yeah, you probably do. It's not a great long-term play. Sometimes you got to just live for the moment. So there wasn't a whole lot that Rampage could do there. 50 Cent is notoriously bad at these things. And he jumps the shark, overvalues his own worth, and is a major checkers player, not chess. He has a history of doing that. He wanted to get into the promotion of boxing. He and Floyd Mayweather were best friends in real life, aside from the camera. So 50 Cent hatches a plan that to get his boxing model off the ground, he's going to publicly end his friendship with Floyd Mayweather, right? Where they're like sitting side by side in Floyd's living room, telling the whole world that they hate each other and laughing and giggling and eating brownies or whatever it is they're doing, okay? It was so obvious that he was doing that, though, and it was such a checkers move. It was unlike what Vince McMahon would do, where he's a year ahead and he knows exactly where he's going to go, and if there's a fork in the road over here because of human psychology and we get this wrong, then this is the path we'll take, but if we do have this right, then this is the path we'll take. He didn't have X, Y, and Z laid out. He just lived for the moment to giggle with Floyd in 140 characters or less and build up a little bit of attention with no real plan. So 50 has a history of doing this, and he thinks that he understands professional wrestling, which if you ever invoke the I understand professional wrestling model, if you ever invoke that line, what you're really saying is I understand human psychology, because that's all the business, the industry of professional wrestling is, and very few do. Very few do understand it. 50 Cent has a history of proving he doesn't get it. Just get up there and sing and sell some tickets.
I object. This isn't a court of law. There's no judge. There's no jury. There are no lawyers. But I object to what Chael Sonnen is saying. Just one part. Yes, I agree that 50 Cent is more of a blunt force object. You know, he's not always refined in his approach, especially with the Quentin Rampage thing. That's not gonna happen. But this could be big. 50 Cent still has a huge audience, TV show, music, all of that. He's a huge entity in hip hop still, and he has a cult-like following. So there could be something in it for Bellator if he signs some sort of promotional deal. You know, maybe he has a young up-and-coming fighter he knows that has some talent. You never know with these things. So there is potential for something great to happen. I think Chael is jumping the gun a little by assuming a lot of things, man. I mean, I was also under the assumption that he was going to fight Rampage due to the fact that he called Rampage out. But think about it. 50 knows he doesn't have experience fighting, let alone in boxing, MMA, right? Why would you call out a professional MMA fighter? Yes, Rampage at one point was the top of the line light heavyweight, you know, back in his day, before the era of John Jones and them, during Pride, the transition period between Pride and the UFC. But Rampage was a big deal, man. I mean, he was champ, and there's no athletic commission that's going to let that happen. That's just plain and simple. That is not happening on God's green earth. No, but there's something here, man. Something could be done. Something great. What if Shifty's just bringing in a whole sea of celebrities like your Dr. Dre's, your whoever's to buy Bellator? I mean, Bellator, it's second to the UFC, which at its peak was a $4 billion deal with WME and I know who were those two, the the guys who used to run, but yeah, the UFC, yeah, it was a $4 billion deal. WME paid it out, and they got the UFC. Bellator could be next, man, with the little hip hop in it. You might get another $4 or $5 billion. You might have a new number one in town. You never know. I mean, these people were linked to major $1 billion transactions. Vitamin Water was 50. Dr. Dre, Beats by Dre, Title, Jay-Z, he could bring that in. Possibilities are endless here. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I am out.